What's going on, pro wrestling fans? My name is Ramos Jr. Thank you for joining me in today's video. And in NXT, the future is quite bright. We have a long list of talent that are already making waves down in NXT, and some, of course, being the champions. So in today's video, I want to go ahead and try to predict the next set of champions that will unseat the current champions lined up in NXT. But before we begin the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel in order to keep up to date with all kinds of videos like these here focusing on pro wrestling. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. I want to start with the new NXT North American champion, Tony D'Angelo, the Don of NXT. Obviously, he just won the NXT North American Championship, so it's kind of odd already trying to predict who will defeat him for that title. We know he's lined up for a matchup against former champion Oba Femi at Halloween Havoc. I don't see him dropping the title just yet. I feel like he obviously just won the title. So I don't feel like the WWE, certainly not Shawn Michaels in NXT, will have him drop the title in less than a week and a half. I do think, though, we'll have a kind of a medium-sized run with the title, nothing substantial. If anything, it's a way of rewarding him for his time down in NXT. He was one of the first, core members of NXT 2.0 that had debuted along the likes of like a Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, Grayson Waller, and he still for some reason is stuck down in NXT. Of course, not in vain. He has that whole D'Angelo family story that I thoroughly enjoy, but on top of that, there has been a rising superstar in NXT who's been gaining a lot of momentum, gaining a lot of fan support, and I do think he will be the one to defeat Tony D'Angelo. Of course, I'm referring to Javon Evans. I think Evans has all the makings of what a top superstar could be within the WWE universe. He has maintained this level of excitement and presence around him. His in-ring ability is unmatched, and I think he has a lot of potential to be one of the top baby faces, specifically on NXT. But given that he is still very young, last time I checked I think he was 20 years old, I think they'll have him have a run with the mid-card title, the NXT North American Championship, before we think about putting the world title on him. From one North American champion to the next, let's talk about Kaylani Jordan, the NXT North American Women's Champion, who has had a fun title run on her own, but I do think we're reaching the time where she's going to be dropping this title. I know she has a scheduled matchup against one of the members of Fatal Influence. Now, whether it's going to be, JC Jane, Jasmine Ninks, or Fallon Henley still has not been decided. But regardless, I do not see any of those women defeating her, whether it's at Halloween Havoc or on NXT TV. I do think that whoever will face her after this storyline probably will be the one to defeat her. I think it's going to be someone who displays a little bit of a heelish tendencies to match the babyface nature of Kaylani Jordan. And who I think it will be is Jada Parker. I think Miss Parker has established herself as one of the top characters, certainly within that women's division, and will be a constant future throughout the presence in the NXT locker room as well as the WWE locker room. I have high expectations for Jada Parker, who just has the charisma and is still developing her in-ring talent, so she will only get better. But I think Jada Parker will be the one to defeat Kaylani Jordan for that North American title. Next, let's talk about the NXT Tag Team Champions. Obviously, Fraxium has had the championship, they've lost the championship, and they regained the championship. So I don't expect them to lose the title soon because they just got it back. But this is probably one of the more difficult titles to predict. In fact, if you were to ask me who would have been the new Tag Team Champions, I probably would have answered someone like the Lucha Brothers or the Motor City Machine Guns. But being that neither one of those teams are going to be on NXT, at least in the foreseeable future, in the case of the Lucha Brothers, I have to go with a wild card. And again, this is probably one of my more, hot topic, controversial picks on this list today. But I think that NXT has really predicated itself on its storytelling, not necessarily on wrestlers or superstars who would make a great fit as champion. But I think I can see them going the long game with someone like Shawn Spears and Brooks Jensen. I know that that's a tag team that has just recently been developing. I know Shawn Spears is out with an injury, but I don't see Fraxium losing this title anytime soon. When it does come, I would not be surprised if those are the two that defeat them. Is it likely? Probably not. But I mean, you look at the tag team division right now in NXT, and it's really, in a unique space where there's not a lot of parity. There's not a lot of championship quality tag teams because either they've already been tag team champions or they're not ready yet. So I think regardless of who is going to be the next set of champions, it's probably going to be a makeshift team that is just thrown together for the sake of cohesion in a storyline and not because they're a solid tag team. I think this next one comes as no surprise. Roxanne Perez is the NXT Women's Champion. The only question is for how much longer, because I think the obvious answer here is Julia. Julia, I think, will be the one to defeat Roxanne Perez, relieve her of her duties of the championship material caliber main eventer that she's been for this last year. And I look at Julia and I see that she can have a title reign very reminiscent to that of Asuka when she was a dominant champion, defeating all comers. Again, not unlike how Roxanne Perez has been protected, but I definitely think that Julia will be the next one in line. Now, the question remains who will be after her, but that's for a video for another time. And now finally, the NXT Championship, the World Championship in the men's division. Trick Williams, having just won his second title reign as the champion, it's now going to be who's next in line, right? I look at the division right now. We know that Ethan Page is getting his title match against Trick at Halloween Havoc. I'm already discrediting that. I do not see him winning the title back. He just had it. Why would they give it to Trick just to have him drop it again? I don't think that's happening. What I think it's going to be, Trick Williams is going to have an even better title reign than that of his first one. I think this is the one that we're going to remember more fondly than that first title reign. But in the midst of it, I think we're going to have a new challenger start climbing up the ranks, defeating credible opponents and not just squashing them. This guy was a former NXT North American champion, and he's been proven to be quite the dominant force, not only in the ring, but just outside based on his presence. I think Oba Femi will be the one to defeat Trick Williams for that world title. And I think it might come at Stand and Deliver. I could definitely see them having Trick Williams have this long title reign facing all comers, really elevating himself as the top babyface of the brand to meet this like Clubber Lang type of character in Oba Femi. I expect him to be a world champion. It's just a matter of when, and if you're asking me, he's next in line. Okay, you guys go ahead and sound off in the comments on who you think will be the next NXT Women's Champion, World Champion, or whatever champion it is that you want to talk about. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel to watch all other videos such as these on the channel. Of course, like the post-show reactions, the podcast. With all that being said, of course, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you for joining me on today's video, and I'll see you next time.